Welcome to this edition of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. Now, so talk about what led you to do what you're doing right now, and I'll let you describe it and tell everybody.
Yeah. So as coming off of being this fitness influencer and in this space, right? So I went from being the fitness stuff, people asking me how to work out. Then it turned into, hey, Sam, how did you grow your social media? How are you getting these sponsorship deals? How did you create the workbook for that you sell? And then it was like, okay, entrepreneurial bug again of like, well, I keep getting these questions. I could totally teach people how to do this. So then it turned into being a social media coach. Then from there, people that weren't influencers are not interested in being an influencer. They wanted to grow their accounts for their business or learn how to start a business like I did. Okay, then I pivoted once again to being an online business coach because I knew how to do all of that stuff. I'd been doing it at this point for like 6 years. So I did that. And then up until when the pandemic hit is when I saw my community panic, right? Because I'm here teaching people how to make money online, basically, how to set up their
Right.
businesses. They're panicking or they had side hustles and they're now people are losing their jobs, their income, they're stressing out. They're like, we all were, right? It was a traumatic thing that happened to the world. So I just started sharing my morning routine, and that's journaling, just staying focused, meditation, how I created vision boards, how I really set up myself every single day to keep my eyes on the prize, like keep on going, just like I did my entire life, whether it was, competing in sports or, wanting to be in the fitness magazines, like that was all like ingrained in me for so long of like, stay on track, stay focused, no matter what's going on and people doubting you, all these sorts of things, right? So I just started talking about that on social media, on Instagram stories. And then people asking me, hey, Sam, like, where can I download these journal prompts? And I'm like, I don't have a download for this. Like I'm just sharing my personal thing. And then once again, it was that intuitional gut feeling. It was like, you have something here. You have something here and you need to share it with the world because what you have done throughout your entire life, people don't do that on a daily basis. People don't think about their goals every single day. People definitely don't reflect on their days or what they want to accomplish or get super clear on what it is that they actually want. And also deal with the things that were traumatic experiences or limiting beliefs, stuff like that, that is holding them back from their truest potential. So immediately I felt that again, that, oh gosh, here is that gut feeling. It's that pivot feeling. And I was making really good money as an online business coach. And I'm like, here I am. This needs to be a physical product. I don't know anything about e-commerce. I've never done anything remotely close to manufacturing, shipping, inventory, any of that stuff, right? But I'm like, I'm going to figure it out because this needs to be birthed into the world. So immediately I just dove straight head first into that, creating a kind of a sample journal. I got like 20, 30 girls into a little group that were interested. I was like, okay, you guys need to test this. Like it worked for me. Will it work for you? Sure enough, every single woman in that cohort had exceptional results in 30 days. I'm like, that's it. We're going to manufacture. And I just literally YouTube, listen to podcasts on e-commerce. I just infused myself into that space, learned it all, had first couple thousand journals manufactured within, I think, 3 months, started selling them. And I never looked back. And here we are almost 3 years later. And now I'm at a point in my life where I am fully in alignment with what I'm doing. I'm obsessed with this company. I'm obsessed with what it's doing for right now. We just have a journal for women. A men's journal is coming early next year, but I'm just so in love with what I am doing. And I know that every single thing that I had done throughout my career, from being the influencer, learning how to manage social media, learning how to build an online business, you can never connect the dots forward to where I am today. But looking back, nothing was a waste of time. Everything that I did has equipped me to be the founder of an e-commerce business today that is just impacting the world in such a positive way.
Now, how many of you sold? How did the sales go? Because you hadn't done this before.
Yeah. The first sales were great. I think within the first year, it was like Okay, we did not hit six figures in revenue our first year. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But here's the difference. If this was me in a different space, like as an online business coach or in social media, stuff like that, that would have looked like a failure to me.
Uh-huh.
But what was really cool was to hear the feedback on this journal that women were having. And for that, like my driving factor was like, it wasn't even at the money about that at that point. It was like, this is a concept that's proven. I know what it takes when you're first like starting a new company or a brand or anything like that. It's going to take time to build. I had things to learn as a founder. I'm actually grateful that we didn't even break six figures in our first year because I had so many lessons that I needed to learn before we could blow up and go really big. So that's kind of how it all went
Yeah,
down.
that perspective probably came from early experiences you had, but when you're starting business, you're always uh, uh, out of time, out of money, and wishing you had all of the venture capitalists just pouring the money at you. But the deal is, you don't always recognize how stupid you really are in your first year or two, and how likely you are to make stupid decisions based off lack of information and experience. You know what I'm saying? You don't always have the best advisors with you that will come around later. You'll be able to find, that's part of growing in the business, to find what do other people do, who advises in this where, what are smart business practices. And it's easy to get caught up in the tyranny of the moment and running around there and spending money here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And it's just like software. If you ever hear of a software company, they just blow through so much money because they're trying to figure it out as they go, and they uh, can have a great idea, get it all built out and say, oh, that didn't work. But then, as hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars later, they say, okay, now we're going to go this way. And they're going to pivot, but that money is burned. And if
Yeah.
you're a venture capitalist, you'd like for them to be a little bit more judicious in making those decisions and find out a little quicker. Now, you did that. What would you, let me ask you this. What can you think of is a dumb thing you might have done that would have been costly early on had you had more success and had more money? Can you think about that? Something you learned not to do, but it was like your second
Huh.
year or after you were down the road a little further.
Yeah, I think if our first year, if we had more money, because we're still self-funded, bootstrapped company. And our first year, if I had more money to put into it, I probably would have bought way more inventory than I needed out of that first manufacturing thing. And
Right.
let me tell you, it's interesting. Getting that first shipment of journals, even like I thought it was like the greatest thing on earth, right? And so did everybody else. But seeing what the journal is today, like it's evolved, it's like gotten better, it gets better and better with each production run. But there were mistakes in that journal, even though it had multiple people read it. So we had lots of like different little mini misprints throughout it. So that would have been a big thing with just like over purchasing journals that just were not 100%. That would have been bad. We probably would have poured a lot into advertising, which at that time, like again, I as a founder didn't yet have the space and the capacity to hold space for this many customers, right? It was just me. I was packing and shipping the packages every single day for I think a year and a half. Like I just didn't have we didn't have the space, we didn't have the setups, we didn't have the systems in place, like nothing. So I think I would have just blown through that cash so quickly without understanding and learning parts of the business that needed to be understood in order to scale it and make it, the quote unquote success that it is today.
Well, allow you to staff up for one thing. And, you know, if it's any encouragement, Jeff Bezos talks about when he got started, they were shipping things out of his garage, and there was him and one other guy.
Yeah.
And he said one day he had the great idea, a light bulb, lightning, it's like unbelievable. The angels, clouds parted, the angels sang. He had this new revolutionary idea. And he turned to his second in command and he said, I've got it. I've figured it out, how we can improve our shipping. He said, knee pads. He said, rather than be on the concrete on our knees, we can get knee pads. And,
That's
and the guy
hilarious.
looked at him and said, I've got a better idea. How about tables?
Yeah. Oh, I love
But he
that.
tells that story on himself, like out of humble beginnings, breakthroughs like that. If he could have bought knee pads for everybody, and then someone said, well, how about tables? And then you throw the knee pads in the trash.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's just those kind of basic type things you don't even think of until you get in the flow. And the longer you postpone getting in the flow and jumping in, you delay those kind of revelations. But now, as you have moved forward, so how has sales gone now?
Fantastic. We are, 3 years later, and now we're doing multiple million revenue per year. So,
That's
so we-
yeah, in 3 years to multiple million in revenue from this book you created to journal. So this is a book. You're selling a little journal, hard copy, but nobody uses hard. Are you writing an app?
no, no, it
You're
is
not.
more. No, no. We do have a
Tell me why you're not doing an app. Why you're
Yeah.
doing why the journal is more important than the app.
Yeah. So, for one thing, we are so connected to these things, right? We are on our phones 24/7. We're on a laptop. We're in everything, right? And then what happens there? You pick up your phone, you get a notification, you open up Instagram, you open up your email, you open up your text messages. Within 2 seconds, you're gone, right? You're
Yeah.
gone. So, the reason for doing a physical product is the morning routine should be disconnected. You should be unplugged. It's the first thing you should be doing
Yeah.
when you wake up. Open up your journal. Let's tap into this first. And when it comes with chasing your dreams or creating your new life or whatever that is, right? The last thing you want to do is open up your cell phone first thing or computer and start being impacted by everything else that's flooding in, right? Like you want to get your mind right first. So having this journal, and it's a beautiful, beautiful journal. It's spiral bound. It's got gold accents or holographic silver accents on it. It feels so luxurious. So just to even start with that, just opening it up, and you have different prompts every single day. It takes about 5-10 minutes a day, depending how long you want to write in it. But just by going there, and the first thing it kicks off is like, that gratitude, the affirmations, your daily habits, the 3 things that you're going to take action on that day in order to get you closer to your goals. And then just like journaling out all of those things that are going well or that you desire and all of those things. It's putting that into your mind first, because that way your mindset, if it's in that place starting the day, you're going to take action on that. You're going to use that to make decisions, whether you feel like doing things or not. It's like, wait a minute, this morning I wrote down, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Like I'm going to stay committed to that. So having this beautiful morning process of just like taking that, 5, 10, 15 minutes for yourself to just get your mind right is so, so powerful. And then just writing it down when your mind, your eyes, your brain see you writing things down, like you're going to be more likely to go after that and accomplish those goals too.
For those of you who are sick and tired of fooling around and are dead serious about wanting to move up fast, I've got something especially for you. I've combined the best insights from over 40 years in business and making $70 million in income and compressed them into a free webinar. That's right, it's a free resource. If you want to find out exactly what the concepts are that I use in coaching $1 million earners, register now at WeidelOnWinning.com. You'll discover the 5-part framework used by so many to reach their financial, personal, and professional goals. You can find that link in this episode's show notes. I'm going to have to get one of your, what do you call it, manuscript? A manuscript?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to have to get one of these and try. I use a online app. But what I do find is you're right, and I've got it all. You can populate it the way you want. You have templates and this, that, and the other. It's pretty darn elaborate. However, you're right. You get on there, and before you get started in the morning, it's like, let me check the news, because if the aliens invaded the White House last night, I don't want to hear about it from someone else. I want to find that out, or
Yeah.
you know, if something tragic happened, I at least want to be aware of that. But then I'll find out, then what pops up is Britney Spears did something here, and it's like, what?
Right.
And then
Right.
you're off
And
to something over here. Justin Timberlake says that's ridiculous. And then all of a sudden you got at least a minute or two. It's like, wait a minute, this is not why I went
yeah. And
to
you're
check
lucky if
the
it's a minute
news.
or two. Yeah. And you're lucky if it's a minute or two. Usually it's like 5, 10, 15. All of a sudden, 30 minutes, an hour is gone. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing with my life? So, yeah.
Yeah, because the news media knows they can keep you if they hook you on all this craziness, the nonsense. But all I want is the news. But then no, it doesn't work like that. And then the other side of it, of course, is to know that down through the years, the people who have been, well, the phrase I heard earlier about here, Samantha, is you've got to be specific to be dynamic. And so that's why I've always been, and coaches, the great thing about athletics is you have a season. You have a season. And then you have games in that season. And then you have a preseason. And then you have, you cycle, you got to divide it all out there. And the elite coaches have like Dean Smith at University of North Carolina, his practices were organized down to the minute. Those players went in there because they only had so much time to get college players that the NCAA would allow for practice, and they had it down to the minute. And Roy Williams, who was his assistant coach, when every player went in every day, every player at the front of their locker had a list of how it's going to go, what they were supposed to be doing, what their role was, and organized. And so and they had that ready day by day for every player before the season started. And so, and then you hear things about journaling from like, I'm sure you use this with Leonardo da Vinci. He had 1,500 pages of notebooks, and they were he probably had 500 words at least on and diagrams on every page. So it wasn't like he wrote, I heard a great joke today. I mean, it was really detailed information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you've got history on your side, you got logic on your side. So I'm gonna have to get one of your manuscript and play with that. But why did you? Let me ask you this. Usually, there's good reasons and bad reasons for people making major. Why did you leave Marina Del Rey? Tell me the real reason. Tell me the real reason.
The real reason? I don't know if I could. I mean, real reason is
we're on it. We're just friends. It's just me and you. We're just nobody's gonna hear this.
I'd lived in LA for 9 years.
Look at that expression on your face. I tell you.
I lived in LA for 9 years.
I have touched the nerves. Go ahead.
It was a great, I moved there for a reason, to take on modeling and acting, was successful in that. And then it brought me to meet my fiance there. And I loved, like, my dream was always to live at the beach. And, when the pandemic hit, everything changed. Everything changed out there. And it was just that, again, had to follow my gut and intuition. It was time for us to go explore, live somewhere else. And, we ended up here, but LA will be a big place in my heart forever. And
well, you polished it up, you finessed it. You should think about a career in politics. But what would you say changed for you that you said, okay, there's got to be something better for me? And then why Austin of all places? So what changed?
What changed?
What did you start noticing? What started to get not as happy as it was before?
honestly,
that you can actually tell the world,
how people treated each other out there,
talk
you
about
know?
that. Talk
Yeah.
about that.
How people treated each other. And for example, like
Wi-
we lived on the beach, right? We lived on the
Right.
beach. We walk the beach, very
Yeah.
amazing, beautiful, clean, fresh air. And
Yeah.
for multiple years, you'd be out there just walking your dog, having fun, and people would walk by and yell at you and be really mean to you about, where's your mask? Where's your
Right.
mask? What are you doing? And it's like, we are out here and on the ocean air, which is the most
There's a
healing
breeze.
cover. There's a
There's a
breeze.
breeze.
Like, you're like 50 million yards away from me. And this was happening all the time, to be honest. And
Wow.
it was just that. It was just this constant. And, even after mandates were lifted, people were still very just not nice, like walking into stores and stuff like that. It's like, oh, it was just, and we're not in alignment with a lot of that stuff, to be honest. And being from a place of, being very holistic and knowing how to heal your body and all these other things, and just seeing when your eyes are truly open, when you're awake to what's really going on, it's like, it's really hard to be in an environment like that 24/7, where you're in a good mood leaving your house, and the second you step outside, someone's all up in your face. And it's like, all right, it's time to go. But I really did feel like that chapter of my life was wrapped up. I feel like I kind of squeezed everything that I could out of LA with the purpose and intention that I had. And we decided, it's like, all right, it's time to go. It's time to move. And actually, we were wanting to move to Florida. And for over a year, we were looking at places in Florida because we're very much beach people. And we took many trips out there and just could not find the place that's like
Oh,
felt good, that
yeah.
like, oh, this feels
You should
great.
have called me. You should have called me, Samantha. I could have helped you.
No, I should have called you. Well, maybe soon, because I know we love Austin. I know it's probably not our forever film. I don't know where
Right.
that next would be. But all I did at that point, and this comes back to like your goals, your dreams, your visions, and being super clear on what it is that you want. I decided to just get on Zillow and type in all the specs for the house that I wanted, and just zoomed out on the map of America, because we're at this point really like, we got to go. We got to go somewhere. We got to get
Yeah.
out of here. We continue with everything here. And I zoomed out, and then I just started zooming in on different pockets. And all of a sudden, like, even though a lot of our friends had moved to Austin, or people that we knew, a lot of people came here, right? Especially from LA. But that wasn't a reason why we chose here. I just like literally found this one house here in Austin. It looked amazing in the pictures, had all the specs that we wanted. We wanted more space. We wanted land. We wanted to be out in the country, out of the city. Like, I'd lived in the city for so long. It's very energetically draining. We wanted to breathe the fresh air, not see neighbors, have our dog, have Milo, our dog, to be able to run around freely. And I zoomed in on this one house, and it had everything. And we're like, let's go check it out. So we got on a flight like a couple days later, came to check it out to make sure it was real and legit.
Right.
And then signed the paperwork that day, and within a week we had our entire place packed up on a
Oh,
container to come here, and we just did it. It was that, again, what we've been talking about this entire podcast, that intuitional gut, that feeling that let's do it. Because at the end of the day, like, say you do make a decision, whether it's moving, whether it's quitting your job, career, whatever, if you hate it, if it sucks, if it doesn't work out, you can always go back. We know we can always move back to LA if we wanted to, or somewhere else, but you'll never know the potential and the success and the happiness if you don't try. So we just trusted our gut, and we love it here. We are so happy here.
well, what you did was you got away from a toxic situation, and what those people. What the pandemic did was allow people that are naturally nasty and mean permission to be nasty and bossy and mean and act like Gestapo agents. And even in Aspen, the mountains, the breeze, and the health, and this, that, the other. Uh, there was one woman that one of my therapists told me about. She would walk around with her dog on the sidewalks, and he goes, 6 feet, 6 feet, 6
Oh, no.
feet. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're 50 feet away from me. Why you say, what are you talking about, you idiot? And then I actually stopped skiing on Aspen Mountain because I went up 2 times. And one time they were yelling at this. I found that when they're yelling at someone next to you, the poison gets on you too. But they were yelling this nice little lady, like she's 80 years old, but she had the mask here. She didn't have it up here. The nostrils were covered, but what else? And this guy's screaming at her. We're in the line to go up the gondola. And we had no idea whether it turned around and finally figured out it was like, something about that. But the toxin gets on you if you got people screaming. And it happened 2 or 3 times. Up there, I said, I'm off the mountain because I come out here, I live out here for fun, happy, regenerating. Skiing is, miraculous experience. And I don't want to have that poison forever, And so I'm off the mountain. I'm just not going to expose myself to that toxin. And if you find yourself in that kind of toxic environment, one person can ruin things for you. If it's in a company or if it's a neighborhood or whatever, but move. I mean, you can't, killing them does not really pay off, folks. That's a temptation. You want to just, I'll just eliminate them. No, you can't eliminate them, but you can eliminate you, and you, you don't have to. And I think one thing, Samantha, a lot of us don't realize what that was. Well, that's verbal bullying. People, you're being bullied. It's just like someone's hitting you with a stick, but they're doing it with words. And until you're aware of that concept, it takes you a while to pick up like what's happening here. But for whatever reason, if you're in a situation where your people, people feel empowered to go ahead and be bullying to you, like neighbors in your condo association or in your, your apartment building or in your neighborhood, you don't have to stay there. There's a lot of happy, pleasant people in the world, and get out and look. And so that's what you did, and I'm happy for you doing that and removing that toxin out of your life. Because now you can go back, down the road. Marina Del Rey in LA was not ruined forever, but it might have been ruined forever had you continued to be exposed to that.
Right.
And so, I'm happy. So the thing is, our environment, you hear attitude is everything, environment is everything. And you've got to make the choices that put yourself in a position, in a geography, in an occupation with support people to where you can be your best. And if there's any toxicity or poison in there, you got to get rid of it. There's some people that we have listening to this podcast. There are people in their life they've got to eliminate from their circle of friends. However, you've got to get them out. You don't have to allow yourself to be imposed upon the rest of your life, because your number one priority is to be productive and pursue your destiny. And that's where you're going to make an impact. And if they come in and are constantly pouring on water to put out your inspiration and your fire, they got to go. Don't you think? Do you see that?
100%, right? Like we know the saying, like you're the like combination of the 5 people that you hang out with. I think it goes way beyond that. It is, your immediate family, friends, your surroundings, your environment, that all is a combination. Like I think about it now, just as you're saying all this, it's like, isn't it interesting? The first year in the business, we didn't hit 6 figures. And granted, it was a new company, but also the stuff that I was dealing with on a daily basis in my life during that period of time was a lot of negativity. And you can't just ignore all of that. Like you can't just be like, well, I'm just going to be immune to being bullied or immune to the hate or immune to any of this stuff. Like it's going to affect you. But isn't it interesting after moving to Austin, where I'm feeling great every day? I'm taking care of myself. I can go out freely without being scared. Oh, who's going to yell at me today? Or who's going to be an asshole today? Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm feeling good every single day. And isn't that interesting that all of a sudden the business like 10x, right?
Yeah.
10x so quickly. So it all plays an effect. And what you just said, like, I can't stress it enough. And of course, there's some people, like, for example, family members, like if you live with your family, that's hard. And if they're toxic, that's hard to get away from. Limit the exposure, move out. Like you can remove yourself from these places and you can remove certain people from your life. And you don't have to be like, oh, I can't hang out with you anymore. You're toxic. It's just no, you start making, different plans. You start just limiting your time. Don't go out with them every time they invite you. Go do something else.
Yeah, right.
So
There's ways of, use your brain. There's ways of avoiding that, filling up your schedule. And because they've got problems that is not yours. You just can't let their problems be yours.
I'd like to thank you for listening to part 2 of this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. Timing is everything. You may feel that now is the time to get moving forward so you can do something even greater with your life. Now, if that sounds like you, I've got a free training video to show you how that transformation can take place. Getting introduced to how the cycle of success works has been a major transforming event for so many current $1 million earners. And that's exactly what this video is all about. And yes, it's completely free. Join us at the video at WeidelOnWinning.com. And thanks for being part of our community.